Some contenders find themselves at the crossroads.
You are Locked On MLB, your daily MLB podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, baseball fans, and welcome to Locked On MLB, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. This is the daily podcast. We talk about all of Major League Baseball. I am your host, Paul Francis Sullivan. Please call me Sully. I've been a baseball podcaster for well over a decade now, and this is my sixth full season here at the Locked On Podcast Network, where I'm doing double duty. Every day, or at least 5 days a week, you get an episode of Locked On MLB, and check out Locked On A's, where I do an episode for Locked On A's. Today's episode, by the way, is brought to you by our good friends over at Prize Picks. Prize Picks, that is the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Go to prizepicks.com/lockedon. Use code all lowercase Locked On MLB and get a first deposit match up to $100. Follow us at Locked On MLB Pods on Twitter, or whatever it's called now, and on Instagram. I'm your pal Sully. I'm at Sully Baseball on Twitter, Sully Baseball Podcast on Instagram. And hey, if you listen to us every day, make sure you use that hashtag EverydaySully. It helps us keep track of who is following us and what. I'm in a new location today. As you see, I'm doing my laundry, and some variety in my laundry hanging up behind me right now. I'm using a new microphone. I'm in a new location. We're going to see how this goes. Hey, it is the 24th day of June, 2024. Happy Monday, everybody. An eventful week of baseball is over. I think when we last talked, at least on this show, we were talking about the game in Alabama, and we've seen that the Giants can lose anywhere, whether they're in Alabama, San Francisco, or St. Louis. I think one of the best things to do for today is, first of all, we're going to go over the trivia question. The trivia question was, I pointed out that in the first two games between Atlanta and New York, the two starting pitchers for Atlanta were going to be Charlie Morton and Chris Sale. And I asked the trivia question, what do those two pitchers have in common for World Series achievement? And Everyday Sully Scott Horsemeyer got it right. Both Morton and Sale were regular pitchers of the World Series, regular starters in the World Series for their teams, who also pitched the final innings of the team's clinching final game to win the World Series. Charlie Morton was a starting pitcher for the 2017 Astros, and he pitched the final few innings of Game 7 of the World Series, clinching it. Chris Sale was a starting pitcher for the 2018 Red Sox, and he pitched the final innings. Even though he was normally a starter, he came out of the bullpen to clinch the World Series. Both of them clinched the World Series in Dodger Stadium, and both the 27 Astros and the 2018 Red Sox were doing all sorts of shenanigans off the field. I have no problem if anyone wants to completely discount the 2017 Astros championship. I have no problem if anyone wants to completely discount the 2018 championship for the Red Sox. I really don't. I know most Dodger fans do. And if you want to look at them and say, did you really? Kind of like looking at the 1919 Reds, no fault of their own, but the team they were playing were not on the level. So that's another thing they have in common. They clinch World Series that are the great chagrin of Los Angeles Dodger fans. But Dodger fans, don't you worry. Don't you dry your pretty little eyes, because your team's doing okay. To sort of bounce around how this weekend went, I think one of the best things I could do is just go over who owned baseball on Sunday, June 23rd, 2024, because it covers a wide variety of games and a wide variety of subjects that I want to cover. The American League hitter who owned baseball was Colt Keith, who went 4 for 5 with a home run as the Tigers pounded the White Sox 11-2. Tigers are strange. I actually picked him to win the Central because someone has to. Tigers have been a grave disappointment this year and are probably going to be sellers, which I find kind of sad. But Flaherty is a decent pitcher who should fetch them something. The White Sox should trade everything that isn't nailed down. They should trade everything short of the statue of Harold Baines come the trade deadline, because they have to blow this team up. And that could be a positive thing. Blowing a team up that stinks, flush the team with a lot of young talent and see if you can get out of some of the bad contracts. Sonny Gray, also on baseball, is the National League pitcher. He was perfect. In fact, we had two pitchers taking perfect games relatively deep into the game. Sonny Gray was perfect until he let up a solo home run with 2 outs in the 7th inning. He would wind up striking out 8 Giants, and he led the Cardinals to a sweep of San Francisco. That includes the game that was played in Alabama. The final score today was 5-3. A bunch of the games were close, but the Giants are falling like an absolute rock. The Giants are on a 5-game losing streak, and they've dropped 7 out of 10. And in that log jam in the National League wildcard race, the Giants are slowly slipping out of it. Now, all it will take is one good week and a bad week from some of the people who are up top to get back into the good graces of everyone. And that's more than possible. But they have to get themselves together. The Cardinals, who started the season horrifically, and I was calling for the job of Mozeliak and for Ollie Marmol. Well, the Cardinals have turned some things around and have proven me wrong about a couple of things. So they've been one of the wild card teams, but as you know, like 1 or 2 games separates about 9 teams in the National League wild card chase. But for right now, the likes of Sonny Gray, the likes of Alec Burleson, and them are keeping the Cardinals afloat. The Pablo Lopez also owned baseball. He took a perfect game into the 7th inning, and he finished with 8 innings of 2-hit shutout ball. Now, the Twins are still plugging along. They're trying to claw closer to Cleveland, but have you noticed that Cleveland now has the best record in the American League? Cleveland's on top. Excuse me as I itch my nose, but Cleveland would be the number 1 seed in the American League right now. That was partially because the Yankees, even though they're kind of at full strength right now, albeit with the injury to Rizzo, and they made a trade for J.D. Davis, the Yankees have had a rough week. They lost to Baltimore. They've lost to the Red Sox. They lost to Atlanta. And while they're still secure in first place right now, the Orioles have not been able to take advantage of the Yankees slump because they got their punched in the mouth by the Astros. But the Twins are still in contention. The Twins are still a wild card team, and they did what they had to do, especially giving up a late lead in Game 1 in Oakland. Bailey Ober and Pablo Lopez combined for only 1 inning was needed in the last 2 games from the Minnesota bullpen. They absolutely outpitched the A's. And I talked about this on Locked On A's. They had a reunion for the 1974 World Series champion A's, which is probably the last. I think that's the last reunion they're doing, unless they're going to do would be a 35-year reunion for the 1989 team. I don't know if they're doing that, but I know they had this reunion, the 50th reunion for the 74 team. And that's it. There's not going to be any more reunions for A's World Series winners because are they going to celebrate that in Sacramento? Are they going to celebrate that in Las Vegas? It's sick. And just go to Locked On A's for some of my thoughts on that because it's kind of heartbreaking. But the Twins can make some improvements to their team as they want to be one of the wild card teams. And they certainly look like they have the pitching to do it. And Buxton got another big hit today. So, I don't know, maybe things will come together in Minnesota. Now, the last player who owned baseball on the positive end in terms of full wall was Harrison Bader. He reached base 3 times, stealing a base, scoring twice to help the Mets beat the Cubs 5-2. Now, when we come back, I know a lot of people want my thoughts and want me to take back what I've been saying about the Mets. And I'm going to talk about why I still think I'm right and also point out that when I'm wrong, I am pretty quick to agree with those who think I'm wrong. So let's talk a little bit about our friends over at FanDuel, because this is a great time. If you're a sports fan, this is a terrific time. Now, granted, the Celtics have won the championship. That's good, but there's other great sports going on. We got Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Finals are coming on tonight, and we're going to see, is Edmonton going to come back from a 3-0 hole? Are the Panthers going to close the gap? I don't know. All I want to do right now is watch the games, and you know what? Maybe throw a bet or two. FanDuel lets me keep sports going whenever I want. All I have to do is open the app, dream up bets, and I'm in the great mood. This summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every day, all summer long. So head over to FanDuel.com/lockedon and start making the most of your summer. FanDuel is an official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball. But if FanDuel is not enough, let me tell you something. There's a great way to play your daily fantasy sports, and that is to head over to our friends at Prize Picks. Prize Picks, oh, you know what it is. You've been listening to this long enough to know that Prize Picks is America's #1 daily sports app with over 5 million active customers. Prize Picks is the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. And unlike other apps on Prize Picks, it's just you against the numbers. All you have to do is pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections and watch the winnings roll in. Get in the daily action with your friends and become part of the Prize Picks community. You can now win up to 100 times your money with Prize Picks with as little as 4 correct picks. Not sure if that's grammatically accurate, but that's true of how Prize Picks works. You can turn $10 into $1,000. And Prize Picks is available in more than 30 states across the country, including California, Texas, and Georgia. Now, I'm telling you, I am going to be watching this, and I'm going to be going more than on anything Connor McDavid does, because I have good feelings that the Edmonton Oilers are going to do something special. And Edmonton, I think, is going to win, and I'm going to win using Prize Picks. And you can too. Download the Prize Picks app today. Use code LOCKEDONMLB for a first deposit match up to $100. That's code LOCKEDONMLB on Prize Picks for a deposit match up to $100. Pick more, pick less. It's that easy with Prize Picks. Hey, where is your sports hub? Your place to get all of your best news and takes. It's now time to make the switch to Locked On Sports Today, our free 24/7 sports streaming channel programmed for you every day to bring you the biggest sports stories. Locked On Sports Today brings you can't miss analysis, opinions, and news, streaming 24/7 on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channel app, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. Now, I have gotten lots of guff from lots of you when I said the Mets should trade, should sell. And you know what? I'm telling you, I am aware that the Mets have the best record in baseball in June. I'm aware that they have won 8 of the last 10. And as of this recording, only one game out of a playoff spot. I'm aware it's not even July, and the Mets are on the verge of a playoff spot. But I'm telling you, they are also one bad week away from being where the Giants are. And we've seen this is an uneven Met team, because despite everything I just said, despite the fact that they have the best record this month and everything's firing on all cylinders, they got another great performance by Luis Severino. Harrison Bader got tons of great hits in the victory, the Sunday night game against Chicago. There's still a sub-500 team on the outside looking into the playoffs. And yes, I know the Phillies made the World Series in 2022 from the 6th hole. Yes, I know Arizona did the same thing last year. I think the Mets are capable of big, big things, and I don't think this is the team to do it. And I think that they can use, I stand by that they can use this log jam in the National League postseason, this absolute log jam to get out from some of the big contracts that they have so they can spend and use the Cohen money more wisely. And I actually think they can have their cake and eat it too. I think they can unload a Lindor and then a Pete Alonso contract and still contend. I think they can do both. I think they can play meaningful games in September and shed payroll and get themselves ready to put together a big playoff team. Now, I know I don't think they're going to do it, but I think they can. Now, all right, a couple of the Giants. I mentioned the Giants 7-10. A couple of the half wobs. Let's go through some of that. Nestor Cortez struck out 7 Braves in the Yankees 3-1 loss. I mentioned the Yankees, despite getting back, Judge wasn't hurt for very long. I think he only missed a game. And Garrett Cole is back and looked like he hasn't lost a step. But the Yankees have, they've lost 3 straight series. They've let the Cleveland Guardians leapfrog them. And the Orioles, you can look at it 2 ways. The Orioles got their lunch handed to them by the Astros over the weekend, so they weren't able to take advantage of the Yankees losing the series to Atlanta. But you can also say the Orioles had their lunch taken to them by the Astros, and yet they're still within striking distance of the Yankees. It depends on how you're looking at it. Kyle Freeland allowed 1 hit over 6 shutout innings. The Rockies were doubled up by the Nationals. I wonder if Freeland's going to be on the market. Spencer Horwitz homered twice, walked twice, but the Blue Jays came up short against Cleveland. That's right. The Blue Jays are still falling like a rock. The Blue Jays are, let me tell you, you're going to see people like potentially Vlad Guerrero Jr., but certainly Yusei Kikuchi are going to be on the trade market. And the fact that Kikuchi could be acquired shows that the Blue Jays are hopeless. I mean, they've dropped 6 in a row. The Jays have dropped almost an entire week of games in the last week. And since ending May with a 4-game winning streak, they are 8-13 in June. They ended May on a big blistering, let's prove Sully wrong, and now they proved him right. They proved me right. I'm Sully. I just scratched my nose. And we're looking up and seeing that right now, Toronto is going to start unloading their players. Someone, please explain to me how they haven't changed managers at this point. It makes 0 sense to me. 0. They lost again, another close game. By the way, Brian Reynolds, he's been really hot recently. He homered, but the Pirates fell 3-1. And the Pirates are in that log jam. I think the Pirates should go for it in a way that the Mets shouldn't. Because I think the Pirates are in a situation where things could break their way, and they have some of the pieces together already for a good run. And Paul Skeens has really done well. Granted, they're still a sub-500 team on the outside looking into the playoffs. They've only been a playoff team for 1 day this year, or 1 day since the end of Memorial Day. But the Pirates should take a look and see what's available and could be taken care of relatively inexpensively. Hey, when we come back, I want to talk to you a little bit about some of these teams in the Crossroads and how a couple of the small market teams should be taking advantage of a seller's market and try their best to ensure their fans that, hey, I think we're going to do something this year. We're going to talk to our friends over at Supply House. Supply House is the place for all of your skilled trades needs. Order supplies from the website that's made for skilled trades. Find thousands of parts from hundreds of brands in just a couple of clicks at supplyhouse.com. Supplyhouse.com gives you 24/7 access to a huge selection of plumbing, HVAC, and electrical supplies with fast deliveries anywhere in the United States. Need help with an order? Get industry-leading after-sales service from their friendly and knowledgeable customer support team and talk to a real person every time. And there's great news for plumbers, technicians, and contractors. Being a pro has its perks. Trade industry professionals can join their free TradeMaster program for free shipping and serious discounts on every order. Over 100,000 pros already trust the TradeMaster program to deliver results. Apply for your membership today and get a competitive edge on every order at supplyhouse.com/TM. Save money, time, and peace of mind when you order online. Order plumbing, HVAC, electrical supplies, all from supplyhouse.com. Real people, real service. Supply House. Hey, this is a reminder that Locked On has created the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. And now it's available on the Amazon Fire TV and the free TV channel app. Locked On Sports Day is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Find Locked On Sports now available. Locked On Sports Today now available on the free Fire TV channel app. Hey, I was on Locked On Sports Today last week. I had a lot of fun on there. Hey, take a look at teams like the Royals. The Royals fell out of a playoff spot today because the Red Sox have been absolutely going on a torrid pace, the Red Sox. On May 30th, the Red Sox were shut out by the Tigers and were a game under 500. They are 14-7 since, and they beat the Yankees. Now they beat the Reds, and they have the best record in the AL for June. And the surging is what should put the Royals on high alert. The red-hot Astros, remember, the Astros were 7 games under 500 just a week ago, or just 9 days ago. Now they're only 2 games under. Granted, they're still on the outside looking in, but they're getting hot and things are looking good. And the Royals should be also scared of the fact that the Texas Rangers, who beat them over the weekend, got back Max Scherzer, and suddenly this team is, look, the Rangers, the defending World Series champs, are starting to look like they're more of a contender. And maybe, just maybe, they're coming back. Now, the Royals have not been to the playoffs since winning the World Series in 2015. They haven't had a winning season since then. They've had a couple of 100-loss seasons. But J.J. Piccolo, he's the general manager of the team. He says that, what is the quote I have here from MLB.com? He said, the thing we have to keep in mind is I like to think that we're just getting into a window. We're going to have a nice handful of seasons. How far do we want to push this thing is something, but we do have to answer to the front office. I feel an obligation to the guys committed to this team and to Salvador Perez and Bobby Witt. That's right. And I think that's great. And it's great for the fans in Kansas City. There's a team which was a 100-loss team last year, and have had a couple of 100-loss seasons since winning the World Series in 2015. And they have found themselves as a potential playoff team. Now, they need to do a couple of things. The Royals need, I think, 2 outfielders and a relief pitcher. And I do not think they need to gut their farm system to get that. I mean, I think one of the big prizes as a potential player is Tanner Scott of Miami, who's having a wonderful season there. But he is going to be a free agent at the end of the year, if I've read my baseballreference.com correctly. So players with expiring contracts, yes, the teams want to get something for them, but you're not going to get a top prospect for Tanner Scott. Also, Miguel Andujar, who made a phenomenal play in Oakland's loss to Minnesota today. He leapt over the wall, caught a home run, turned into a double play. Excuse my cough. He's a rental. So you can get someone like him. Again, he's not a great player, but he's better than bad. Remember, mediocre is better than bad. If you could fill a hole and improve them, well, maybe, just maybe, you can make a small improvement there. And, you know, I think that's what the Royals should be doing. I think they should be looking for teams who have expiring contracts like the Mets and offering them player. Don't offer one of your top 10 prospects. Offer someone who's deep in your farm system, low A players. Hey, look this is better than what you're going to get if you let them go, and you can make those tiny improvements. Operation 2021 Braves, when they had to completely redo their outfield on the fly. That should be what the Royals are doing. You're not get it doesn't cost big time. Just bring in someone slightly better, and you're giving a message to the fans, you're giving a message to the players that we're going for it. And essentially, if the Royals make the wild card, then that is a huge step for this team because they have a lot of pieces and they have an MVP candidate in Witt, and they still have Perez, who's linked to their championship years. That's something to be huge, and huge for the fan base to say, hey, the 100-loss season era is over. Now we're going to start to win again. And it's very important if you want to sell some season tickets and try to get a couple of free agents to show up and to convince people you want to build a brand new ballpark downtown. Milwaukee is another one. Milwaukee is in first place. Milwaukee's playing quite well, thank you very much. They need another starting pitcher, and this is also a window of opportunity for Milwaukee to maybe punch someone in the mouth. Everyone thought this was going to be a rebuilding or at least a crossroad year for the Milwaukee Brewers, and it looks like they're putting themselves in line to win the division. And who knows what could happen? They could get hot. You've seen the National League. It's a place where weird things can happen. A team could get hot, and someone could punch the Dodgers in the face, and the Brewers could punch the Phillies in the face. And next thing you know, the Brewers are in the World Series for the first time since they were an American League team. And they need a starting pitcher badly. The Brewers need a starting pitcher. That's why Kikuchi, I think, is the best fit for them. Flaherty maybe with Detroit. Cal Quantrill with the Rocks. One of those teams is, they're going to have to trade away some of those players. And none of those players I just mentioned have long-term contracts attached to them. So the Brewers don't have to think about gutting their farm system. They just need to have, a nice pitcher to come in and do the job. And that's what we'll see happen. So we're going to see, we've got to have a great week of baseball coming up as we're going to wrap up June. And next thing you know, it will be the 4th of July. And before you know that, it'll be the All-Star break. And before you know what's happening, it's going to be the trade deadline. And for these teams who are thinking, I wonder what we're going to do. You don't have a lot of time to think about it. You don't. You don't have a lot of time to think about where you're going to turn on the crossroad. And for some of these teams, it'll be a big moment. Which brings us to our trivia question today. Baltimore has a lot of ambition for this year, but they have not been in the World Series since 1983. Here's a trivia question. Who pitched and won with a complete game the final home game in a World Series for the Baltimore Orioles? The last time a World Series game was played in Baltimore, what Oriole pitcher threw a complete game victory? That is your trivia question. So follow us at Locked On MLB Pods on Twitter and Instagram. I'm your pal Sully. I'm at Sully Baseball on Twitter, Sully Baseball Podcast on Instagram. Tomorrow we'll be probably going to be taking a look at the power rankings and see where they are. I hope Cleveland's rising up, talking about teams at the crossroads and wondering who's going to do what, where, and whenever. This has been Locked On MLB for the 24th day of June, 2024. I am yours, Paul Francis Sullivan. Please call me Sully.